I'm not going to jail.
A video of a man allegedly intoxicated interacting with police has been released for all the wrong reasons.
I'm going to check all four.
Put your hands on your back.
I told you I was not going to swing.
I'm not going to let you swing on me, Charles.
They were telling him no one's getting arrested, go take a walk, sober up, and then all of a sudden he hauls off and, punches him in the mouth.
Parents at a public charter school in Kimball are demanding answers over disturbing allegations against a part-time staffer. CBS News Detroit's Luke Laster is on your block in St. Clair County with the story.
Well, I don't know if I'll be sending my daughter to school in the morning.
Parents feeling betrayed and outraged after what they say made matters worse.
Because I'm not going to stand for it.
Landmark Academy in Kimball hosted a parents' meeting at their middle and high school auditorium to address a concern parents say they feel left in the dark about. A now former part-time employee, 64-year-old Robert Kessler, was arrested and charged with multiple felonies like possession of child sexually abusive material, accosting children for immoral purposes, and distributing obscene matter to children while employed with the school. Now, when I arrived to Landmark Academy, I asked the school representative conducting the meeting if he would be interested in an interview beforehand. He declined. Additionally, I also went to set up my camera gear just before the meeting got rolling, and I was asked to not record. Many parents telling CBS News Detroit they were not notified of the incident until discussions on social media began heating up. They say it was then when the school sent out a timeline of Kessler's hiring in October of 2023, his criminal investigation, arrest, arraignment, and his official no trespass letter issued, according to the timeline, on February 29th of this year.
How did he get here? What are you going to do about it? Are you going to have nobody could talk? There was nothing. Why would you even call us to a parent meeting if there was nothing to be discussed?
We've reached out to Landmark Academy leadership both before and after Tuesday's meeting and have yet to receive a response. In Kimball, Luke Laster, CBS News, Detroit.
Great controversy at Landmark Academy, one of the most prestigious institutions, schools here in St. Clair County.
I saw a mugshot and I saw charges. I paused, I picked up the phone and I contacted the school. He is an employee of Landmark Academy, as there has been a past, a reoccurring CSC offenders that pop up in what are supposed to be our safest places, our churches, our schools. It's happened in Port Huron, it's happened in Marysville, and now it's in Landmark, the school that I thought was the safest in our area.
What were the charges?
Child sexual conduct. There was 8 counts, distributing material, using electronics for material.
He had quite a few little jobs here and there. So I began talking with these ladies in regards to how to proceed and how to address the situation. I believe you called the school and commented back saying what the principal had said.
Everything that he assured me of was complete mistruth.
Such
as this individual, Mr. Kessler, Robert, had been a sub in the elementary school, he was a bus driver, a purple bus driver.
The children of all ages.
Yes,
he has interacted with them.
Mm-hmm.
Checked Facebook and Through My Eyes had posted the post in regards to Robert Kessler. So at 5 a.m., that was the first thing I saw. I clicked on the comments, and as I'm reading the comments, Landmark popped up, and I was shocked to know that this was occurring, considering, like, as a parent, we had no information. Debbie and I had a couple email conversations back and forth.
And who's Debbie?
Debbie Wilton is the superintendent for Landmark Academy.
Okay, so you got a superintendent, you got a principal, you got a CEO, and Landmark Academy, if I understand it, is one venue, one building.
Yes.
2 buildings, 1 campus, and all these administrators. Then obviously somebody dropped the ball.
Right. Well, and I didn't even know where to proceed further up, and that's why I emailed Hoskins, because, he's the principal of... I expected a response more than being forwarded to the superintendent, but, we got a phone call from Landmark with a generalized statement stating...
like a robocall?
Yes. That didn't give any information at all, really. And then the second was the timeline.
I smile because how insensitive.
Very.
Very. Instead of calling an emergency meeting and say, let's talk about this. We want to give you peace of mind and what actions we're taking. They send out a robocall.
Debbie did state, she was willing to sit down with me and have a conversation. But again, if I portrayed that conversation to any of the other parents, for one, that's disrespectful because you didn't include anybody else. For two, that's hearsay. I'm telling someone else what our conversation, that's not fair. That's not fair. And that's not how it should be handled.
I feel betrayed in a way. We're a good community. I don't lie to them about anything with the kids. I, treat them with respect. I just expected the same. And I kind of expected the same for the kids. Not only were we not talked to, but they weren't talked to.
Right.
Nobody took them aside and said, my gosh, if you need to talk, can you come talk to us? If I know they have a counselor on site, they could have made her available or even more, but they didn't. And
if they did not release that information to the parents.
Well, my son said nobody's talked to him, and the children have been talking amongst themselves. And now the children are told not to talk amongst themselves. If they're heard talking about it, they're told to stop. I don't feel that.
Who told you that?
My son. The teachers are telling them not to talk about it.
Not to talk about
the faculty. When they keep saying it's a whole thing for home. I understand, but you have my child 6 to 7 hours a day. At some point, some of this has to be their responsibility. To make sure when I send them there that they are as safe as they are at home.
I've researched the budget. The budget is very vague, and I can't see where we're dispersing, if at all. I don't know the answer to that question because the budget transparency that's listed on the Landmark Academy website isn't very transparent.
The school receives $12 million annually?
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That's clear.
Yes.
And we don't know how much the CEO is getting paid, the superintendent.
Right. It's very generalized.
Principals. So we don't know how much, as you said, how the money is being distributed.
No, we are a public charter. So, and I imagine that's how we get the Title IX funding.
$12 million for one campus, 2 buildings is quite, it speaks volumes. Where is all this money going?
Our security guard, I don't want to say that. He's a guard for the schools, will then be in uniform and armed.
So it is visual to all those that enter campus that we have a security guard.
And is that going to solve something?
What we just went through was internal. Is he going to be protecting our children from what's inside as well as what's outside?
Right.
Where was he in the school? Did he have contact with my children? And so as the day progressed and more comments were being made and more information was coming out, not from the school. I'm pretty sure that he has been driving my kids on the bus. They do have, occasionally different bus drivers, but, so then I'm getting progressively more anxious and more waiting for them to come home. Because at this point I'm getting no answers from the school. I don't know. I haven't even heard from the school. We don't know anything. 6 children that are telling me, oh yeah, he drives our bus. He's the bus driver. And I was like, oh, when was the last time you saw him as a bus driver? And they all had different answers because, they're young.
Right.
And my oldest is in 6th grade. And he, every time I asked him when was the last, do you remember last time he drove your bus? He would get really upset and wouldn't answer and couldn't answer me and just would get just really upset. So I just stopped. And I was hoping that I would hear more answers from the school. And then I want to say like 2 hours after they got off the bus is when we got the initial phone call. If we wouldn't have been upset from the website, they wouldn't have sent out that phone call. I felt like that was the reason we were hearing anything, was because we were so outraged. And so then we got an email, I want to say like an hour later, basically the same thing that was in the robocall. It was an email from Debbie Wilton, the superintendent. And so I know there was lots of parents that emailed. I was one of them that tried to email that, to that message, what she said to do. And then we got another email the next day that said, sorry, that email wasn't working. So I don't even know how many emails they were getting from parents wanting to have answers, wanting to communicate with the school, and it wasn't getting to them.
The cover-up, I mean, would you say it's a cover-up?
Yes, based off of my experience, absolutely.
A demand for justice and answers after a man dies from being detained outside a bar in Port Huron. Thank you for joining us today at 5. I'm Glenda Lewis.
And I'm Brian Abel. State police say bouncers were holding a man early Saturday morning. When responding, police officers realized he was unresponsive. Josh Conant was later pronounced dead at the hospital.
Friends have been gathering, placing flowers, teddy bears, and signs here at a makeshift memorial for Josh Conant, who died Saturday.
We're seeking justice for my son, Josh Conant, and he didn't deserve this. He was the nicest kid, and, he loved life, and he loved his friends. He was just a all-around good kid.
Mike Conant mourns the sudden and unexpected death of his son, Josh, who lost his life Saturday morning outside the Rocha Bar in downtown Port Huron. According to the Port Huron Police Department, there was a fight inside the bar and that altercation spilled outside. According to a witness and friend of 26-year-old Joshua Conant, bouncers brought Conant outside and held him on the ground. According to that same witness, Conant's only involvement was trying to keep the peace.
And I don't know, I've heard conflicting things, that Josh was in the bar sticking up for somebody, a girl that was being harassed by a gentleman.
In a statement to 7 Action News, Port Huron police say when they arrived, they helped secure Conant, who was already being held down by bar security, and immediately recognized he was unresponsive and CPR was performed. Sadly, Conant died. Michigan State Police are handling the investigation. Conant's family and friends are demanding answers and are questioning the way this situation was handled from start to finish.
The way they handcuffed him, and then the officer, I guess, let the bouncer do CPR.
This situation was not handled correctly. This was excessive force, and the staff of the bar should already know that you're not supposed to engage in conflict outside of the bar.
The NAACP's Port Huron branch is also calling for an open and fully transparent investigation.
So even if he was in an altercation in the bar, the bouncers have no right to follow him outside the bar.
I called a phone number listed for an owner on online state business records. I have not heard back. The Port Huron city manager tells me an officer is on leave, which is standard procedure. State police tell me that the investigation could take weeks or even months to complete. In Port Huron, Darren Cunningham, 7 Action News.
The U.S. Attorney's Office is investigating allegations some sober living homes are taking advantage of people at the lowest point in their life. And some of these allegations are very disturbing.
Bringing people out of the area in for the sober homes and then using them for a captive workforce.
To explain what would cause work by patients at a sober living home to become criminal.
Depends on who's profiting from it. If it's something that's basically to help a nonprofit or something of that nature, that's great. That's actually part of the process. If it's something to put money in someone's individual's pockets, that's not such a good thing.
Are you recruiting people from the area, or are you trying to advertise and simply bring in people from out of state in order to run a mill, if you will, in order to just make profit?
And it doesn't stop there. Billing practices and when patients are required to repeat a program are also being investigated.
Let's talk about, how the whole election, how Matt King became the sheriff. And there's some questionable activities there as far as when the former sheriff, Donlin, prior to resigning, I don't think he made that public. And it appears that they waited until the 11th hour, and the Tim didn't rerun, and Matt King signed up, if not on the very last day. So they were assured that he was ornated as the sheriff. And that's not a good way to start out your career as sheriff, is doing something, in my opinion, that's underhanded.
Well, I think in everybody's opinion, when they learn or they already knew because it was all over the internet.
So now I question the integrity of the former sheriff and the current sheriff, right? Because they've already started off with a form of deception. And what that would have, for Matt King, that would have saved him thousands of dollars in campaign, expenditures to run for office. As we all know, it's an expensive venture, right? And it takes a lot of finances to do that. So that's that in itself, is troubling. Then I looked at even the previous sheriff, and it appears that there were some issues with ethics and immorality there. Some positions potentially at the sheriff's office were filled through nepotism. And last but not least, even other individuals within the sheriff's department also had problems with morality and ethics issue.
And here we go again.
Yeah. Hey, and sheriffs, people in the police departments are humans like everyone else. They're not infallible, but yet at the same time, when you stand up and say, I'm going to be a law enforcement officer in this city, in this county, you're really being held to a level that you obey the law. You're a law-abiding citizen. You have strong moral and ethics. That's important. And so you're expected to conduct yourself that way, not only while you're on duty, but while you're off duty as well.
Exactly.
That's my opinion.
Mine too.
That's my opinion. That leads me into the next concern I have, and that's with the sheriff's brother, Marcus King. Marcus King was arrested and convicted for DUI.
Blue alcohol level above 0.18, which is called super drunk.
Right. He pleaded to a lesser charge, and that, in my opinion, is grievous, because when you're in law enforcement and you violate the law, in my opinion, I believe you should be held to the strictest judgment. With Lisa Brown. Lisa Brown was an inmate in the St. Clair County Jail. And I've read a little bit about the story, and she herself realizes that she did something that caused her to be incarcerated. She's not denying that fact.
She was arrested for drunk driving.
Yeah, drunk driving, and hey, there she's in jail.
Right.
Should have been sitting next to Marcus, but she wasn't. Anyhow, she fell in her jail cell and injured herself apparently grievously.
Well, she fell from the top bunk onto the floor.
And so apparently, in my opinion, the sheriff's office didn't have a plan in place to address that serious issue. It appears that she was had been injured for 65 hours
3 days.
Before they took her out for medical treatment.
I interviewed her attorneys.
And the justice system will take care of that issue as well. But again, that leads back to the leadership of the current St. Clair County Sheriff's Department. And
maybe the administrator should have been, the jail administrator should have been fired. I mean, these attorneys said they have never seen such grievous neglect for human.
Exactly. And so, these things start to add up pretty seriously for a person that we've entrusted to be the sheriff. And by the way, we didn't mention it, but I've done some studying, and the sheriff himself is the highest ranking law enforcement agent in the county. He supersedes the state police. He supersedes the local police department. You have to listen and pay attention to what's going on and listen to what people are telling you. And so when Sheriff King got up Tuesday and proudly announced that he had been chosen out of a small percentage of sheriffs to go and train with the FBI. And for him, he's thinking that people in the audience are looking, whoa,
impressive.
Listen, with the FBI, wow, that's the top echelon. And unfortunately, maybe back in the day, maybe. But today, absolutely not. And I've seen so many things in the last several years that I mean, it actually goes, we're talking going back 20, 30 years, things have been, in my opinion, the wheels have come off that whole organization.
We've all seen it.
Right. So, in my opinion is, if he was selected by the FBI, they'd already sized him up. They don't ask anybody to come into that organization unless they have already sized you up.
And what does that mean?
In my opinion, it means he's one of us. He's somebody that we can bring in here and manipulate him to do what we want him to do. Unfortunately, that's the way, in my opinion, that organization.
Or he'll get in line and do nothing.
If I have to tell you I'm of a certain faith persuasion, that doesn't speak well of me. And I'm trying to virtue signal, in my opinion, to those people and say, hey, vote for me because I'm of this persuasion. But if you're not living it, then that shouldn't bode well, or it shouldn't even be taken in consideration. That's my opinion. Some other things like that. If I get pulled over for drunk driving in St. Clair County, I'm going to be requested to be sent over to Muskegon, right, to get my breathalyzer, because I don't want any conflict. Now that I've made this interview, I'm sure that I'm going to be treated improperly, so I want to be taken somewhere where it's impartial.
I would say 90% of the deputies, they all know what happened and why it was wrong. And even the whistleblower, Scott Jones, he said, I have no animosity, I have no, not disparaging Marcus King, but as far as Matt King,
And Warren Head's not a newcomer to this whole situation. And when he says that I can handle this job, I trust that he can handle the job. I think someone coming in where there's no nepotism, to come in, an outsider coming in and taking a look at what's going on there, I think that would be a breath of fresh air for the community. It may not bode well for the people currently in the St. Clair County Sheriff's Department, but at the same time, let them know that there's going to be a level of accountability that maybe has been missing for a while.
Because, there's a battle brewing, if it hasn't already started, and it's knocking on our doors. And, I've reached out to Matt King a number of times. And as you said, he won't address hypotheticals. And he also said, quote unquote, I just care about getting reelected.
We recovered a math book with some racial slurs in it and what we found to be a hit list with some students' names on it.
The school has no comment, and police say no evidence points to a persistent racial problem at Northern High School.
But today I spoke with parents and some of the kids on the list. They don't see this as an isolated incident.
There has been many racial things happening at the school that the school themselves are aware of.
A female student had opened her locker and it was a Confederate flag, said all kind of other racial slurs.
Some of the students on that hit list described the mood of racism as common, but this new threat unsettling.
Come here. That is a St. Clair County Sheriff's deputy you hear behind the body cam. Seconds later, the deputy fires 2 shots, killing the dog named Rocco.
They were a block away, and the police coaxed them with the food, and then they shot him.
Backing up to September 12th, Rocco and a pit bull got out of their yard in downtown Algonac after getting sprayed by a skunk. Their owner, Maggie Meldrum, says she didn't know where they were. A neighbor called 911 after spotting them, and this deputy responded.
We're not just going to ignore that and then find out later that these dogs bit somebody or attacked somebody.
St. Clair County Sheriff Matt King says animal control was tied up on another call. It's normal for deputies to step in.
Dallas's mother says she's concerned about these bullying incidents and says that they could escalate, and says that the school district needs to do more.
No child should feel the way that bullying makes you feel, worthless and alone. There's people out there willing to step up.
Cassandra Kendrick says she couldn't believe her eyes when she saw a video of a fight on her son's school bus last week involving her son and a bully.
My first reactions, I was trying to hold back my tears, and I was frustrated at the same time. I was overwhelmed with all the emotions.
Her son Dallas says a student recorded the incident as others cheered.
He came up to me, started talking trash, so I pushed him off of me and started walking away, and then he came back and attacked me.
Cassandra says her son was choked and punched and later taken to the ER.
He was diagnosed as an assault victim with a concussion, contusions, abrasions, and a head injury.
We reached out to Central Middle School for comment. They sent us a statement that reads in part, the school was made aware of the incident on Thursday after school. On Friday, the school tried to contact the parent who reported the incident. The school believes this to be an isolated incident, and the school side of the investigation is complete.
It makes me scared, kind of upset that I have to go right back into it and hope not to get beat up again.
They need to start holding these bullies accountable, pulling them from schools, denying them transportation. Something needs done. We need to protect our children.
In November of 2023, a viewer that we will refer to as Brian was at home with his son, who was playing chess at the computer, when there was a knock at the door. Brian's son looked through the glass to check who was visiting unexpectedly.
It's the police. It's the police.
Most of the interaction is caught on the home security camera and Brian's cell phone. Brian appears to almost open the door for the officers, but recalls the numerous videos of officers escalating a nothing burger call by putting their foot into a person's doorway, preventing the homeowner from terminating a consensual conversation when the officers don't have a lawful reason to enter the residence. Brian moves to the next room to open a window for communication.
Can I help you? What's going on? Regarding school. What happened?
With the odd inquiry, Brian pulls his son aside to ask about the alleged video from school that prompted a police response.
The video you saw in school?
Yes. There's nothing to the side. Okay, thank you. So,
Do you have any idea what you're talking about?
no.
You want to talk to him?
Not really.
It's pretty unusual for you guys to show up to the house like that. Can you give me a little more information?
We're trying to make sure everything's good with him.
Well, everything's fine, so if you guys have a warrant, that'd be different, but everything's fine. Well, we don't answer questions. There's no extenuating circumstances here, so yeah.
So it's one of those things we could talk to him.
Well, or you can go get a warrant signed by a judge, but he's not talking to you right now because he said he doesn't want to, and everything's fine.
Was there a call that he's in danger right now, or?
Well, that's one of those things that we need to make sure he's not.
Okay. What's your name and badge number, please?
Deputy Egan, 6768.
And what was your name and badge number?
Snyder, 8160.
Oh. Okay. All right. Well, you guys have a good day.
I need to speak with him.
Do you have a warrant?
I don't need a warrant.
Yes, you do.
Generally, an officer needs consent or a warrant to enter your home. However, in a few rare examples, referred to as exigent circumstances, the usual requirements for a search warrant can be bypassed by law enforcement. These events usually require an officer to have a reasonable belief that immediate action is necessary and cannot be delayed without risking harm to individuals, the destruction of evidence, or the escape of a suspect. But at this point of the interaction, Brian knows just as much as you do about what is happening here, and it's encounters like this that have so many people refusing to even answer the door for officers. This circular conversation about a mysterious video that the officers are concerned with but won't tell the parent more about is unnecessary, and if the officers really felt that they had a lawful reason to enter the residence, they would have done so already. And now, instead of informing the parent about why an immune government agency is suddenly interested in something his son watched at school, the deputies resort to insulting the homeowner, as if escalating a consensual encounter with aggression would convince him to allow them inside his home.
Sir,
what's the exigent circumstances?
What's your bar number?
I don't need to be a lawyer to know my rights, okay? The Constitution, I don't need to be a lawyer to know the Constitution.
Check your son's welfare.
No, are you okay? Hey, come here for a sec.
So we just need to see him.
All right, come here.
Easy.
Are you okay? All right, thank you. You guys have a good day.
Deputy Egan's ego expands rapidly, and prior to his departure, he tells Brian that CPS will be there.
Come back with the warrant.
Okay.
Good day. Come back. Go f*** yourself. Come back with the warrant, you fucking tyrant.
Have a great day.
Go f*** yourself, you tyrant. Come back with the warrant.
Sir, have a great day.
Go f*** yourself, tyrant.
A few minutes later, Brian caught the deputy's chatter on the radio using a scanner app on his cell phone where they asked dispatch to label him as hostile to law enforcement. However, Brian was more than adequately polite to the deputies throughout the entire encounter, until Deputy Egan's veiled threat to send CPS to his home. It was only after that threat that Brian used profanities towards the triggered officer. The next morning, Brian went to his child's principal to inquire about the alleged video, and they assured him that they knew nothing about a video, or any incidents involving his son, or the need for CPS intervention. The counselors knew nothing either, and even the school resource officer had no clue, as he was assigned from a completely different agency. Afterward, Brian went to the department to file a records request for more information and footage, as well as to file a complaint against the deputies. Unfortunately, the main office was closed, but since emailing me, I'll be helping him with his records request.
Huron pastor is facing charges of child pornography tonight. A federal complaint accuses him of posing as a teenager online to seduce underage girls into X-rated poses on a webcam. His church is on Pine Grove Avenue in Port Huron. 7 Action News reporter Breanne Palmerini is there with the troubling allegations.
The pastor, known as Jackie Woodburn, served here at Colonial Woods Missionary Church. He was the director of the counseling center, and now he's accused of engaging in some very, very disturbing acts with a 12-year-old girl online. Church officials will not comment on Jackie Woodburn's arrest, but his picture and biography have been removed from their website. According to his bio, he's been married to his wife since 1974. He has 3 kids and a master's in community counseling. We went to his home just 6 miles away from Colonial Woods Church, but there was no one home. Residents who live by Colonial Woods say the church is really involved in the community.
A lot of children activities. They have summer carnivals, and they have Christian music festivals.
FBI investigators filed the criminal complaint in federal court, and it details accusations against Woodburn. It all stemmed from an investigation into a particular website. The feds aren't naming the site yet, but they say it's already been linked to 50 young victims, and they're still finding more. According to the criminal complaint, Woodburn used the site and posed as a 15-year-old boy. They say he chatted with a 12-year-old girl from Texas who he could watch via webcam. This is a portion of a chat they had from April 2016 where he asked her to take off her clothes and other more explicit directives. He called himself J.D. Windwalker. Federal investigators tracked the IP address to Woodburn's home, and he turned over 2 Apple laptops. According to the criminal complaint, Woodburn admitted to taking part in sexually explicit chats.
Pretty shocking. I mean, you see it all in reaches of society now, but especially the person in that position.
Woodburn is facing at least 3 felony offenses at this point, and he could face even more as the investigation continues. In Port Huron, Breanne Palmerini, 7 Action News.
It's quite frightening for the parents in that church, too.
2 youth pastors, 1 church, both charged with sex crimes against children. The children that looked up to them as mentors at the River Church in St. Clair County's Kimball Township. In January, we told you about William Wall, who goes by Stephen, now serving prison time on sexual assault charges against 4 young victims at the church, 2 under the age of 13. The abuse allegedly started in 2014. Then this week, another youth pastor, David Shigina, charged with criminal sexual conduct, abuse against multiple child victims.
There's going to be a lot of damaged lives because of this.
Melanie Sakota is with SNAP, an organization to help survivors of clergy abuse.
It seems to me like must be a very dangerous parish, and I think you're going to find a lot of victims.
The investigation into Shigina started as a result of the case against Wall, the 2 allegedly working in lockstep to prey on victims, something clergy sexual abuse survivor Dorothy Small says is common.
They're more concerned about maintaining secrecy and preventing scandal to the institution than the people that they serve.
Currently, Stefan Wall's father, Bill Wall, is still listed as the lead pastor at the River Church on their website, a website that says, quote, "When your kids are with us, we care for them like they're our own. Their safety is our top priority."
As so many people, especially children, when you have adverse childhood events and you are suffering abuse, that will translate over into your adult life in your choices.
David Shigino was arraigned in St. Clair County on Christmas Eve. He is out of police custody after making a $10,000 bond. Now, we did reach out to the River Church multiple ways and did not hear back in time for this story. Jessica Dupnack, Fox 2 News.
Thank you.